Perfect. Well, welcome everyone to what has already been an exciting college council. Ricky Shabazz, president of San Diego City College. College council is the highest level of governance for our campus. You can put forth an agenda item one of two ways, either by emailing Esther or Angel in the president's office, and or reaching out to one of the leaders of the constituency groups. Before I get into the constituency groups, I want to acknowledge San Diego City College sits on the traditional land of the Kumeyaay Nation. We recognize the Kumeyaay people, past and present, in their land with honor and gratitude. Speaking of gratitude, I appreciate each one of these leaders who I'm going to introduce. You can email if you would like to place an item on College Council. Again, College Council is the highest level of governance at the college. Joining us is Mona, the president-elect of the Academic Senate. Standing in for Tilly today is Andy, one of our deans, but he is the acting vice president of instruction. I just gave him the title. Right now. So thank you, Andy, for being here. Robbie is the chair of Institution of Technology and also one of our deans. Present. Caesar is an information officer. Present. Daniel is a supervisory rep. Present. Suna is the president of the chair's cabinet. Present. D is our administrative rep.
Stepping in for D.
Oh, okay, Masa, thank you. I didn't even put you up there. Diego is the reason why we're all here. He's the president of the Associated Students.
Present.
John is the vice president of Administrative Services.
Present.
And if you all hear me struggling to speak, I am fasting and I've been talking all day, so my mouth is chaps. Marciano is the vice president of students.
Present.
Sean in that.
Subbing for Sean Ryan, Ira Garcia, Vice
Thank you,
President.
Ira. Good to see you, Ira. You knew there was a reason why, so. And then Maria Jose Zedon Perez is the president of the Academic Senate. This is your college council, particularly for those who are watching online or in person. If you would like to have an item discussed, you can do so by reaching out to one of the constituency group leaders. With that said, item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the March 5th meeting notes. Somebody would like to make a motion for approval. It should have been sent out to you by Esther prior.
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sunam. Any further discussion about the meeting notes? Hearing none, all in favor indicate so by saying aye. Any want to abstain or object? Andy's going to abstain, thank you. I don't see our first guest here, but I do, or is he coming via Zoom?
We've been contacting him, but he has not responded.
Okay. Our second guest is here. Our amazing outreach coordinator is here to talk about our open house that is scheduled for April 18th. Marissa.
Well, thank you very much. So this year's open house is going to be on Thursday, April 18th. You guys all have a flyer in your packet. It's going to be from 9 to 1 in conjunction with the Student Research Symposium and the Environmental Justice Conference. We will have the college information sessions, campus tours, workshops, and a student services research fair. We need faculty or program areas to sign up for 30-minute slots to provide interactive and engaging demonstrations. We're not looking for lectures, we're looking for interactive, hands-on demonstrations for prospective students. This can include program areas such as our learning communities or support programs like EOPS. The student services resource fair will be from 10 to 12 that day with setup around 9. Last year, we had a record number of attendees, around 650. This year, we're expecting the same or more. You'll see that we're capping free lunch to 1,000 registered attendees. So all attendees are gonna be provided with like a conference style agenda where they're going to choose to go on their own adventure. This is why it's important for our program areas and our faculty areas to provide that engaging synopsis of what their workshop or event will look like. So this year, we are really looking for people to be more interactive. We really want to use this situation to really share your programs, the different services that you have, and increase our enrollment in that way. So the flyer and demonstration sign up will be sent out to the campus again today. Please feel free to share with your friends, your colleagues, other campus resources, other community resources that you might be in connection with. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me.
Speaking of questions, any questions for Marissa about the open house or the research symposium? Please, we need your help getting this information out. This is one of many exciting events. One of my favorite to be able to see student work, which I don't normally get to see, being that I'm not an instructor here at this college. I get to go around and see the research that our students are working with our faculty on. So super excited about the event. Something we're going to do a little different this year as I look to share the platform with our vice presidents is that VPI Tilly Chavez will be doing some of the work that I would normally be doing as the president, as the organizers of the research symposium. Typically like to invite the president to speak. I want to provide our vice presidents those similar opportunities that are usually afforded to me as the president. So if you don't see me there, it's not because of, well, I will be there, but it's not because I'm not supporting it, but that we're looking for ways to give the vice presidents an opportunity to give their speeches instead of me giving mine. So thank you to everyone involved in the planning. We have an amazing, I believe, adjunct who's assisting on the research symposium site. Let's say this again, about that, please.
On the resource symposium.
Research.
Yeah, I know that, I don't know about that.
Yep. Oh, excuse me, Aaron. Yes.
Yeah, the contractor. She's put together a nice program that's going to it's going to award students for their work up to 15 different awards. There's going to be food for everyone there as well. And yeah, they're excited to do this yearly. It's growing, and I agree with Vicky. It's exciting to see student work and for all of us to be able to go in and see the great work that our students are doing in their courses. So yeah, Aaron Engstrom is the one who is leading that up. Your colleague, right?
Yes, I was actually a part of the research symposium.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
but
want
I
to say a
wasn't
word
student here.
about that?
Yeah, and my apologies, Aaron. I was so used to, I believe it was George, one of our adjuncts that was
Yes.
running it prior to Aaron. My apologies, Aaron, one of our, I agree, great communications faculty members. Any questions about that? Speaking of great communications faculty members and amazing former City College students, we have an opportunity to hear from our newest communications faculty member, and Marta Noor. So I'm going to give her the floor to combine both her story and provide an update on some of the things that our Somali students may be going through this month. As we set the tone for that, it is so important as we, as a college, commit to social justice, to know that our Somali students comprise a significant population in San Diego compared to nationally and globally. I believe it's either the second largest or the third largest. There's some debate between, I think, San Diego and Ohio, I believe it is, as having the second largest Somali population. And we have a representative of that community who is a new faculty member here at San Diego City College. So, and Marta.
Hello, everybody. My name is Barta Noor. I attended San Diego City College in 2010. Wow. A while ago. I came to school, and at first I really didn't care much for school because it just really wasn't valued at home. My mom valued family more. She wanted grandbabies. And so I, first semester here, got into an arranged marriage, and it was just that. It was an arranged marriage, and I was introduced to a plethora of things at San Diego City College, things that I hadn't experienced before. I was diving into the literature, and I had professors who were more than willing to help me and really celebrate me for who I am, and celebrate, you know, the hyphenated Somali American and not just American. And so I really came into my identity. My second semester here, I was pregnant, and it was really tough, and I didn't think I was going to continue going to school, but my professors, again, just to name a few, Hector Martinez and Lisa Chadoff, would be unbelievably kind and just so welcoming and really wanted me to succeed. And so they humanized the professor-student experience and really brought me closer to academia, and then even closer to myself and really identifying with kind of, you know, what I'm going through and who I am, and all of a sudden I'm like a new mom, and I'm like, no, I still can't do this, but I did, and I only did it with the help of the culture here, the professors here, the administration here. And so I went on to SDSU to get my bachelor's in communication, and then later my master's in communication. I came across a colleague who said that Deanna Shelton is working at the comms, as the chair of the comms department, and I wanted to part-time. And so it all came together, and I was given the job as part-time faculty, and I thought that was the dream come true. And so I was doing what I loved, and I was going into the classrooms, and really, really kind of just being so grateful to have come into this space. And then after 3 years of doing that, position opened, and so the universe was calling my name. So I went in, and it was an awesome experience, and I'm obviously here and got the job, and I just couldn't be more appreciative. And to bring it full circle, right? Now I have a student in my class who is a single mom, and I identified with her, and she heard my story, and now she stays after class, every class, and she wants me to advise her. And it's just like, what, I'm here, and now she's here, and I can help her with her dreams. So I love it here, and I think I belong here just as much as that student is here as well. So thank you. Also, putting together Ramadan night, which is going to be on April 1st. Please bear with me because I'm going through all these policies and procedures for the first time.
Bureaucracy.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I love bureaucracy.
Yes, but it's a good learning experience. So that is gonna be from 6 to 8, and I'm talking with the Somali students. We have a lots of Somali girls that are in the Umoja program. And so I'm gonna go to a meeting right after this that talks about whether or not we should, how to organize that, right? Because I don't wanna steal all the Somali girls from Umoja. And so I'm going to talk to the Umoja coordinators on how to give Muslim students, Somali students, kind of their own space as well, without taking away from any other programs. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to share my experiences, and I'm even more excited to, you know, help others become themselves, especially Somali students like myself. So.
The other thing, and Martha, we were hoping you would speak to is that typically Rashid, Dr. Bull, and others would send what I've seen floating around social media in various educational journals rather, ways that the college, faculty, classified professionals can support Muslim students who may be fasting during Ramadan and showing certain characteristics, like I am right now having problems speaking because I'm chapped as all outdoors. But can you provide any maybe insight into that as well?
Yeah, sometimes students are really out of it. You know, if you haven't had water all day, and then the student to the left of you is drinking a Gatorade while the student to the right is eating hot Cheetos, it becomes very difficult to really, get a grasp on things, maybe turn in assignments late and whatnot. So maybe some of that flexibility, some of that leniency, accommodating students, asking them how it's going, I think is really the most important thing, right? Like, how's your fast today? How's that working for you today? And, are you fasting every day of the month? And maybe even tell us a little more about what you do. What are the cultures and traditions associated with it, and really having an open heart and an open mind to their experiences, while also welcoming them and celebrating them for who they are. So lots of flexibility, leniency, and maybe even asking, okay, do you need to set aside time to pray, or can we talk about, adjusting this deadline? When are you able to submit that? So it's definitely a spiritual challenge, as well as a physical challenge, and it shows in many Muslim students. It makes it much easier if you just bridge that gap and communicate with them. I can also send out an email to the rest of faculty, kind of outlining maybe just a couple of suggestions.
Yes, and that is very often what Rashid or others would do. So any help with that would be greatly appreciated. Any questions for Barta or comments? Yes.
I just wanted to know the location. Have you said the location?
Yes, I've been verifying that. So I just got that email. I think it's MS 140.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah. MS 140. Hi, Maria.
I'm so sorry I'm late.
No worries. Good to see you. Well, if there are no additional questions, I will move on to the next item. Again, good to see you, and Barton, thank you for being a City College student and a role model for so many of our students. I will turn it over to Mona, who is also working on very important work that we need people's help with as we continue to streamline and update our committee structure. Mona.
Thank you. So yes, this is in your packet. This appointment process is what it's built. So I'm just gonna go through some of the changes. Much of what is here is the same. So the way that we have faculty apply and the way that appointed is the same. Now the big change is the reevaluation of all of the committees and really kind of encouraging people. I don't want to say forcing, but encouraging people to have faculty members who've been serving for longer than 2 years to reapply a refreshing. I do want to emphasize though that we, of course, we don't appoint to some committees like Chairs Council or College Council, so we won't do any of those committees. This is specifically for committees that Academic Senate appoints faculty to. So right now we're in step one. We're determining current committee membership. This is what I really need help with. We have tried this at least twice before and got stuck at step one because not everybody opens their email. And so I think with everyone's support, we can get it done. So right now we're asking chairs of committees, not chairs of departments, but chairs of committees to complete the spring committee assessment form. And the form is pretty straightforward. It just asks for who's on the committee, how long have they been serving, and whether or not they're going to need, if there's like any other special information, like if their term 2 years, 3 years for some reason. So that helps us to identify needs. So once we see who's on the committee, how long they've been serving, then we can, I can communicate with the chair of the committee to let them know either your committee is good, like some committees, city planning, for example, regularly cycles out members. Others might need to fill out the next form, which is step 2, request committee membership. We should be starting that soon. We're a little bit behind. And so once we identify that we do need more members, you'll complete that form. And if you don't do it on your own, we'll gently prompt you to do that, you being committee chairs. And then from there, the process is very similar in that, we will send out a big list of committee vacancies and people will apply to the committee calls. And that will be open for a couple of weeks. So the cool thing about that is that rather than getting there still might be committee calls throughout the year, but rather than, not really knowing what's available when you start your
start your school year, you want to start committee service, you'll get one big list in the spring. And as faculty members, especially part-time faculty members, who want to get involved, you know, I think it's difficult sometimes to see where we can get involved. So this will give us an opportunity to have a nice comprehensive list of which committees have openings for the fall. So people can make decisions ahead of time in the spring for their fall committee service. So all of this will happen in the spring, and then we go through our committee process where after a couple of weeks, we'll look at who applied, we'll vote internally and appoint, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of the semester. And then committees will be refreshed, and we'll do this every spring. And then everyone starts their committee service in the fall. And then part of this process, of course, is the last step is committee appointment confirmation. So the confirmation feeds into our spreadsheet. So this will mean that our spreadsheet, which we currently have a spreadsheet that tracks committee members, it'll just be that, right? So it'll be more complete because everyone who's been kind of laying low under the radar, serving on a committee for 10 years, will now have to reapply. And so now we'll have all of that missing information on our tracker. So this can be really useful for faculty who just kind of want to know who's on committees, for managers who want to know who's on committees, but it won't be a complete list because some people serve on hiring committees, which is a separate list to meet their committee service. And then there's also like other ways to complete committee service that might not be included in our. So it might be useful, but maybe not a complete tool. So it still will require some communication with your faculty members. Any questions?
I want to acknowledge the work that Mona is doing, the labor of love this is actually very important for a number of reasons. One, to ensure that people have ample opportunity to serve on committees that they may be interested in so that no one person monopolizes a certain committee, but also to communicate effectively across the campus who serves on committees. And one of the things that I will add, particularly for those managers, Masa, is that there is a need to track with the Senate's process participation of both classified, every constituency group, and then communicate back with their respective processes. If we need a faculty member, if that person's missing the meeting, because the only way we can ensure that participatory governance is working at its highest level if people participate. And so not in a punitive way, but in if, you know, maybe the time doesn't work or whatever the case may be, maybe the person doesn't know they're on the committee, that we communicate with the constituency groups to at least reach out and then when and where necessary to replace said person, which is why Mona's work is important, is because we need to establish who is actually on those committees so those conversations can then begin. So I've asked the vice presidents, as has Mona asked all of us, to do our due diligence of sending the form and the name so that we can have a spreadsheet that says which faculty are on which committees and where they are in their terms of serving on said committees. Where this doesn't apply, it does, but doesn't. In a different way it applies is those committees or councils that relate to someone's job. Like Student Services Council, there are faculty on that and people on that is based on their job function, right? And so, you know, any college or university has these committees that are either functional or based on appointment. We want to track all of it though, so that we know, because it also is a workload issue, right? If we have one person serving on multiple committees and then we have other people who aren't serving on any, there may be an opportunity to have a conversation so that people don't overextend themselves also, whereas there may be people who aren't participating on any at all. Any other comments? So please, we need your help. You see the deadlines, you see the communication there. Mona will continue to send out my own communications to get people to respond to those things. I'm going to turn it over to Andy, who's going to update us on number 6. And in your report, in your packet is an enrollment report. Andy.
Yeah, and from that enrollment report, I'm gonna touch on some highlights for City College. So our headcount difference from last year at this time until this year at this time is we're up 1,227 student.
Yes.
And we are maintaining that 90%
Wow.
toward our FTS target, and that's not even with the very strong second 8 weeks that's coming. So I imagine that will even be higher than the 90%. The productivity is holding at 12.85. Last year at this time, we were 11.85, so
Yes.
1 point up. And it shows.
Somebody's gotta get excited around
It
here.
shows continuous growth. We are doing better and
Yes.
better with our productivity. And our chairs, you know, as we're talking about enrollment strategy, our chairs are continuing to complete the go, no go process that we've been following in the last few semesters to evaluate the best places to shift our FTL to hit the FTS targets that we have. We are finishing up our summer and fall scheduling. And chairs have been also shifting FTF. We rebuilt some of the programs that were especially hit hard during the pandemic and are continuing to bring students back to campus. Some of our current offerings, we have 137 sections that are in that afternoon time between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. And on campus of those are 78. Synchronous online is 23 and partially online 36. There's 19 sections that are in the evening and all are meeting and in all our meeting days from Monday through Thursday. 17 of those are on campus, partially online or 2. 72 sections are meeting on Fridays and Saturdays. So we continue to build that the weekend program. On campus 68, synchronous 1. And you know, in some of those classes are labs that students are able to come and take care of some things that they can't do anymore when they're on campus. So that was strategically done to offer some lab space in classes that they can practice for their classes. Synchronous 1 of those on the weekends and partially online 3. A total of 1,136 sections that we're offering this spring session. On campus, 580, synchronous 45, online 377, and partially online 134. We are growing based on our student demand as you can see, and that continues to shift, but continues to as I said, grow. One thing that we hear a lot is people are talking about cutting. We're not cutting, we're shifting. We have higher FTS targets than we had before for next year. And to meet those, we're rebuilding some of those programs that were hit during COVID, but we're also making sure that our students are able to get through our pathways. And our chairs are doing a really good job of looking at their program and saying, hey, we could use these FTF over here and these over here. So the work with the chairs and the deans continue there. We want to keep all of our FTF and our FTS on this campus, not having to go to another campus. If you remember when the chancellor was here, we talked about that. I think we're in a good place for next year as we show the growth this year to do that. So we're looking forward to that. And then when we do shift the FTF, sometimes, you know, some comes more from one program to another. And it's about maintaining those open pathways for students. It's not about giving everybody the same type of a shift. And so that's important to know. Nothing is final also as we continue to schedule with the allocated FTF for 24. I'm really excited about the way it's going. The deans and the chairs are showing one thing that's really important is happening. It's a lot of education on FTS and FTF. What does productivity mean? What is FTS and how do we check things like that? So we're continuing to do that. And that's the report on the enrollment.
Any questions? I want to add a couple things. One, I want to acknowledge Suna and her work to submit a proposal for the SIM project in the States. We're hoping to get accepted and to send a team. Enrollment management is a science. It is a place on our campus where discussions occur in the student journey meetings. Interesting enough, as the president, I have very little, if anything, to do with the allocation of FTF. Other than monitoring very actively the budget and student enrollment. As you heard from Andy, I just want to reiterate a couple of things. One, the promise bundles are working. They're working. We're waiting for the data to come. We know the enrollment part is working. We're looking forward to seeing the student retention and persistence part of it. Susan Murray and her team are working on reports for us right now. Want to acknowledge both Genevieve, Marissa, and all of the deans and the faculty who participated in the bundles. We had the largest promise class in the history of our college, and percentage-wise, the largest in the district in terms of growth as well. We did not, you plan and then something happens and then you learn from what happened, right? So we learned a number of things. One, we learned that the bundles are working. We learned that we needed additional counseling for those. We learned that we need to build a second year experience. And I'm saying those things because it's teasing up to go out of order from Marciano to go 8 first and then 7, because it relates to this discussion. Is part of what we learned is that the outreach coordinator who helped with these efforts, frankly, was doing work that was not originally part of the scope of their work. Let me give you some examples, and I don't want to steal the whole thunder. One of them is promise. The other is that we now have a robust high school scholarship program for high school students that we did not have prior to COVID. And so these things lead to growth and based on student demand, while focusing on programs such as cosmetology and the bachelor's program, that there's going to be growth over time. And so we are not cutting, we are shifting. Well, what's the difference? If I lost and somebody gained, well, there may be a time where your program is growing and the one that received it this time is in decline, right? So that enrollment may come right back to you at another time. But here's what I know. If we don't achieve the target, there's an increased likelihood that that enrollment can go to one of the other colleges. Then there's not an option for you to recoup that enrollment at a later date. So hope everyone had a chance to read my communication last week where I dove into how this works. But I assure you, we are growing. We are not reducing. There are some programs, though, who we need to put additional resources and support because they were hardest hit during the pandemic and have been slower to recover. And if you are one of those programs, I would suggest you set up a meeting with Clarissa and Genevieve and Marciano and Caesar, so we can strategize intentionally about how to get you some help to get you the numbers that you need. Speaking of strategizing how to help, item 8, which is a first read, is the proposal to reorg and create a director of outreach in the promise that is a direct result of the growth that we've had in outreach in the promise program. Marciano.
So we'll skip number 7 and go to number 8 real quick. As Ricky mentioned, this is our first read, so we'll start there. So this is an opportunity for us. This is what we're going to be taking on the road. And then I should also preface that got some information from Ricky and Chancellor's cabinet today. So we'll clean up this version before we really take it on the road. But the important things to know, as Ricky mentioned, are that this gives us an opportunity, this reorg gives us an opportunity to create a new director of outreach and promise. So in that dean's area, there's currently a director of financial aid, a director of enrollment services, a director of upper bound. And so this position really comes in line with how they were already structured. And as Ricky mentioned, it gives us an opportunity to really think about like where we're trying to go with some of the things that have really fallen on the plate of the outreach coordinator. And there's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of recoup some of this in terms of when we think about the impact that this will have on our SCIP funding moving forward. This position is going to pay for itself. I mean, at some point, where this position will be paying for itself. But all of this is in the packet for you, including the reorg part. I guess the things that I would highlight are the total cost to us is going to be about $160,000. That is the cost of the new director of outreach and commerce. We would keep the original outreach coordinator, that position that we already had, which was already funded through the GFP, so that we're not losing a position. We're looking to reorg and create this other position. If you look at the structure, again, this very much falls in line with how the dean and I can say that it's Genevieve's area, but trying to take names out of these things. The dean's area is already structured in a way that has directors that are part of these areas. And as you've heard today, we've grown the Promise program, we've grown the bundles, we've grown the high school with outreach part of this with Workforce Wednesdays with two of our schools, and looking to expand that with other schools. So our partnership with the CTE programs has also grown, and this really gives us an opportunity to capitalize on that and really take it to another level. I anticipate this is going to be the model for the other colleges in our district to follow, and we just happen to be ahead of the curve because we happen to have the best team at the district. So there is that part of that. Is there any questions up front before that? I know that you all just got the packet, so if there are questions, but we are on here. You'll see the timeline. We already are on the schedule to go to all of our constituency groups. So this is the first week of college council, but we have forwarded it to Daniel for SPOS review. We're taking it to Student Services Council on Thursday. I'm also going to classified Senate, the Academic Senate, Instructional Cabinet, and it'll come back for a final read on April 30th for College Council. And then at that point, we will take a vote.
So Marciano, I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned it would pay for itself. Can you go into, high level how in 30 to 60 seconds?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we've talked about in the plan that Genevieve put forward, we've talked about the fact that we've got concurrent enrollment, that currently our summer, our San Diego Unified does not offer summer enrichment for our students. And so we've talked about, like, if we can get 100 students, 200 students to enroll in a dual enrollment course for the summer, what that will generate for us in terms of these are already going to be our students. We know that they're coming. It will generate the money to pay for this position. And so, and that's putting it on the low end, right? So we're talking 100, 200 students. When we think about the thousands of students that are in our feeder schools and our feeder high schools that could potentially be coming here in the summer, now that we know that we are already offering classes to ninth graders, right? We've opened up our CCAP class courses tonight. So this gives us an opportunity for potentially eighth graders and ninth graders also to be like, hey, I'm thinking about taking a class. What could I be taking? And so we will work strategically with our instructional deans and chairs to make sure that in particular, like in the summer, that our schedule is reflecting the classes that we know that these students are looking for, right? So our dance classes, our classes for, students that are trying to get into math so they can move into the right math at their high school. So this is going to really give us opportunities to capitalize on that and build out our dual enrollment program. So that's one of the ways that I think it will pay for itself.
Any questions? I would just add a couple things for clarity. When Marciano referenced 8th graders, he doesn't mean in a literal sense. Technically, the summer after the 8th grade, technically they're 9th graders, but we're calling them 8th graders because they're rising 9th graders, right? So at that point, the summer between the 8th and the 9th grade year, those incoming 9th graders, we would target to start taking courses, something academic, but something that they may be interested in. Like we have programs like photography and art and dance that those students could get that college credit for. We would also do this without increasing FTF because we're talking 2 or 3 students per class, right? We're not talking about creating new classes for these students like you would see in CCAP. We're talking more around the lines of what you see with East Village, where those students are in our regular classes with college students. And to Marciano's point, I mean, with our feeder schools, conservatively, we could have between 100 and 200 students per school that are participating in concurrent/dual enrollment, depending on which environment. Out of California, it's called dual enrollment. In California, we call it concurrent enrollment, which is very different than CCAP, which is a closed class just for the high school students. That's not what we're talking about. We've kind of maxed out there. We're talking about entering in where high school students are coming to us. Well, we could offer a class too, but it would be open to the public, right? Our college students might enroll in the class there as well. They wouldn't be closed sessions, but this would pay for itself, yes.
So just to clarify, because I know we have this today. So this is different than the Associate Dean of Promise and Outreach.
Yes,
Okay.
so
It's a different position.
So we reassessed it with discussions with the district and the preferred way. What we were trying to accomplish with the associate dean had to do with a very outdated ed code around a certificated manager versus a classified manager. We, between the time that we suggested the associate dean and now the director, we frankly were able to confirm, I was trying to say how to say this politically correct. We confirmed with HR that the director could be certificated because there are faculty in the Promise program that person would possibly be supervising or giving direct instruction to, right? This gets tricky when it works, nobody cares. When it doesn't work, certificated faculty could invoke ed code that says a non-certificated manager can't assign work to, right? And so that's where this went from the associate dean to director, and as Marciano pointed out, that is the format, organizational structure in this dean's area already.
Okay, so no more Associate Dean, now it's Director, okay.
Yes.
And you're telling me that is a faculty position,
No, so there are
It's an
2 types of
administrative
managers. There's 2 types of managers and supervisors on campus, either certificated
Yes,
or non-certificated, very usually known as classified.
Yeah.
So if you look at admission records and financial aid, they are classified are non-certificated managers. So technically, because of ed code, they can't supervise faculty.
Okay.
So we were trying to avoid that same situation in this
yeah, because
case,
this program.
but we were waiting to confirm that the director could be certificated. We
Oh,
now have
gotcha.
that confirmation.
Oh, perfect. So it's an administration position that,
Correct.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Manager that can supervise. faculty.
So think about like the EOPS model, right?
Yeah.
So Mireya is the director,
Yes, the
but she
director,
can
but she can
supervise.
supervise faculty.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions? And for clarity, this would be an open recruitment that anyone who's interested would have to apply for the position. Any other questions? Hearing none.
And please send Tilly and I, if there's any, as you're going through it, please, if anything is unclear, or you have questions, please let us know, because as we take this on the road, our hope is to really firm this up before we bring it back on the 30th to be able to give you all the best version that we can afford. That will go.
Yeah, and I know, Marciano, that the date for our Senate we tried to confirm, but then it was rescheduled, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'm hoping that you can really come before. You know, because faculty, we do need to have the conversation at the Senate.
Yes. Duly noted.
You want to go into number
Yeah,
seven?
so the next one is the dean of and I don't like the title Dean of Ideas, but it's what it is right now. I know there's been some discussion about potential other titles. But I think the gist of it here is we used to have our Dean of Equity. And as many of you know, when that position became vacant, we had some discussions at college about whether we could fold in some of the responsibilities. We looked at exploring a model in which some of the things shifted to Dean of Student Affairs and to Vice President of Student Services. And quite frankly, it has really become hard to sustain that model.
It didn't work. Go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
It's harder to sustain the model. So what that has led us is to really go back and say, what is it that we need, right? But we know that what we had wasn't exactly what we wanted or what we needed. And so this really gave us the opportunity to look at a bigger picture. So the reason we're not calling it a Dean of Equity is because it's not really the Dean of Equity position. It really is a new imagined dean position that took into account our needs with professional development, that took into account some of the ways that we wanted to kind of build out some of the new spaces on campus. And so it gave us an opportunity, or it is giving us an opportunity to do that in this position. So you will see that that again, Tilly is going on the road with this, and I will be joining her. But there is an opportunity to do some reorging in that area. So what would the library, for instance, is part of it. Most folks will look at it and see that there is now a dean of information and learning, which is the existing position that is in there. So that will get kind of filtered out a little bit, and then you've got the dean of ideas, and then that will have things like the PD Center and Title III grants that will be in there. So our categorical grants that are in there. So much more aligned with some of the things from the equity as well as some of the things that you may have seen. So it really is a new way of kind of thinking about equity and professional development.
And this dean will report directly to the president.
And this
So it's
dean will
similar
report
to what Susan does.
Susan,
the
exactly.
dean of
Yes.
institutional effectiveness.
Yes.
Yes, and that really is a model to get that person into exec cabinet more often than a dean typically would, unless they were serving in the capacity of a designee of a vice president, like Andy today was in executive, cabinet, but that's not something he would normally do, whereas Susan and Aaron Flanagan, who are direct reports to me, come once a month, and that is their assigned time. So that gives the college a renewed focus on these areas. And I would also just add one thing, is that this dean would also be providing much needed support for things such as the Ideas Committee and the World Culture, so that there's renewed support for those areas. And Tilly has been visiting with those areas that are impacted by this, and there will be formal meetings with those areas for people to give feedback. And to Marciano's point, there appears to be ongoing discussions about the title of the name. Let me say, I'm not partial to any other name or any name. I just want to know what the name is going to be so that I can refer to it appropriately. I also wouldn't have a problem with the Ideas Committee weighing in. It seems appropriate because we changed it to the Ideas Committee for this to be the Dean of Ideas. I have no view of that one way or another, other than to, as a leader, when you try something and it doesn't work, you got to stand up in front of people and say it didn't work. And the idea of not having a Dean of Equity that I think we would agree wasn't working, and not having one wasn't working. So we went and reimagined this in discussions with the academic senate, in discussions with ideas, discussions with the library, the LRC. And we've gathered that feedback to put in the document that you see, and we'll still gather feedback as it goes on the road if people have an opportunity. And we know that change can be hard. And so this is a change because some of the things that were in place frankly needed to be reimagined in the best interest of students and the institution and the people in the respective areas. Any questions? Yes, Masa.
No, all Title III is going there, right?
No.
Okay.
No. The US Waste Stamp grant will be in there. We've outlined, if you look at the org chart, you'll see which ones are the ones that are gonna be.
This is a draft, it's a work in progress. This is participatory governance at the highest level that folks will be able to participate in the areas overseen. Most of the people impacted have had meetings with the vice president, and there will be department level meetings moving forward in addition to the timelines there. Any additional questions? Hearing none. That's fine, the rest of my agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Number 9, is a update on the state budget. Again, hopefully you all had a chance to read my communication last week. The budget is not promising, but I would say I'm not afraid. I believe that those who advocate on behalf of the work that we're doing will prevail over some of the proposed cuts or approaches that the Legislative Analyst Office is suggesting. None of us are in favor of tuition increases or any of the proposed. And when I say proposed, I do not mean by the government, right? The LAO office is supposedly an independent organization who makes these recommendations. We have information that leads us to believe that the governor is not entertaining any of the proposed things that the LAO office suggested. What is real is what's called a deficit factor, which is a fancy way to say that during economic times like we're experiencing right now, the state government delays payments to the degree of what about amounts to somewhere between a 2.5% or a 3% deficit factor. How does that work? Well, if we were owed 100% of revenue, then the state would pay us 97%. Does that make sense to folks? And then eventually we would recoup those resources when the state's revenues improve. So right now, there's no cause for alarm. There's cause for awareness that there are budget discussions that are taking place to include sweeping funds that have not been expended. And so let's use this as an opportunity that if you have been allocated resources, that you use them in a meaningful way so that when the state runs an analysis, they don't see us sitting on funds. Now, of course, someone in the government in an office that's not running a college doesn't know why we may be holding on to certain resources, but we don't even want to have to defend that if we don't have to. The other thing that came out a couple weeks ago is an outline of the resources and allocations of general fund restricted. So things like EOP&S and the block grant, all of those things, John Parker, I believe, updated to the website so that you can see them. The link is in the packet. And we always intend to be, I was going to say aspire, but we always intend to be transparent with the college's resources so that anyone who has questions about them can in fact find them on the college's budgeting planning website that we work with the Academic Senate to fine tune and or attend one of the many workshops that Administrative Services puts on annually about budgets. I love talking about budgets because it's something that I look at daily. If that is not the case, in your day-to-day job or support of students or instruction or wherever you may be in the college, it is so important to attend one of these workshops and to read these communications so that you have a better understanding of the college's budget, reminding us that 50% of our resources have to be spent on instruction, reminding us that 90% of the college's budget are the wonderful people who work at the college, whether they be classified professionals, faculty, supervisors, managers at the college. That leaves roughly 1%. So our overall budget is approximately $100 million. Out of that 100 million, we run the day-to-day operations of this college off of $1 million. That means 1% of the 100 million is how we pay for electricity, how we pay for toilet paper. That is how we operate our colleges. And I've asked all the managers to make sure you're having these discussions because the budget outlook is such that we're coming out of 2 or 3 years where the federal government and the state government infused the largest volume of financial resources into our community colleges. And I say that to say that we still are getting significantly less than CSU, UC, and K through 12 per pupil. Right, still the lowest out of those 3 systems, but have to acknowledge under the current governor, the largest infusion of financial resources in our college. However, there's an asterisk. Most of those funds are one time. They're not ongoing, right? So yes, we are sitting on financial resources that have to be spent, but they're not ongoing. Our expenses to operate the college are ongoing. So just wanted to present that information. Are there any questions about number 9? Hearing none, the next meeting is April 2nd, where we will celebrate our FUBU students who finished 3rd in the Knowledge Bowl. That's a huge accomplishment. We have some drama students who went to an event, and there is the 3rd group of students, Angel, remind me. And the men and women's basketball team that both made it to the playoffs, with the men making it to the Elite 8. Elite 8 out of 116 community colleges. That's I know they wanted to win. We were there watching. We wanted them to win. But 8 is a huge accomplishment. Coach Mitch Charlins won Coach of the Year in his division. So we want to bring in some students to acknowledge their accomplishments on campus. The meeting after that, we have 2 Jack Kent Cup finalists, students. We're going to invite them to come. And we have 2 of our wonderful colleagues who just finished their master's degree. And so this is also a space where we celebrate student success and we celebrate the success of our colleagues. So for those of you who are listening and or watching, if you accomplish something noteworthy, let us know. We want to bring you to College Council so we can show you some San Diego City College love. And then we'll also be talking about the year-end events because it is that time of the year, scholarships, graduations, commencement. So we'll start to shift the meeting to focus on some of those things. Certainly there's still things that need to be voted on, so on and so forth. With that said, are there any updates for the good of the order? Yes. Yes. Let's go to Ira, and then we'll come back to social justice.
Classified Senate is having the classified forum this coming Thursday.
Yes.
March 21st, and everybody's welcome. And we are still in the planning phase for our classified awards, which will be in conjunction with Classified Appreciation Week from January to January 14th. More details to come.
Yeah, and I just want to publicly acknowledge our classified professionals and also Sean and Ira and their leadership, and to say moving forward, we'll make sure that the forum is not during the same time as social justice. That was an oversight on my part. And we'll make sure that there aren't conflicts like that moving forward. We had a great conversation about that. Marciano, you want to talk about social justice?
Yeah, there's two events. So, social justice conference tomorrow, Professor Tyree just actually sent out a DL reminding folks of the wonderful speakers that will be here. So tomorrow from 9:30 to 11 in MS 140 is one of the first speakers. So just a reminder about that. And then a reminder that on Friday from 9 to noon in D121, so right next door, we have our first Latinx student success retreat, in which you will be delving into our equity data around Latino student success. What does it look like? What is the data showing us? And then we will also then utilize that time to strategize what our kind of commitments for next year are going to be in terms of the kinds of activities and events that we want to put in, and hopefully come up with a shared calendar of events that promote or highlight Latino student success on campus, followed with some ideas about how we're going to pay for some of those events and utilize our shrinking funds in a more strategic way. So we're excited for folks to join us on Friday for that.
Yeah, and I yes.
I just want to add to the social justice conference, that the first speaker tomorrow is Liz Huerta, a famous and lovely local author. So that's a really great event to take a class to. And then there's actually back-to-back events, dual events until about 3 o'clock. So there'll be all kinds of things happening, and we have like dozens of students volunteering. So just show up at MS, like near MS 140, and you'll find a session at any point during the day, and Thursday as well.
Yeah, I want to add real quick and ask Angel and or Esther to put on next College Council agenda, Marciano, to dive a little bit deeper into the Latinx Student Success Retreat and the Black Student Success Retreat, and commend him for his leadership, because what we would see regularly is people coming to us for resources closer to the event than we would rather it happening. And so I requested that he consider, and he hopped right on it, having these retreats so that we can plan these things out in a year, identify what we're spending already, and see what is available to support, so we don't find ourselves in these situations where 3 weeks, 2 weeks before an event, people are coming to us saying we need $50,000 or we need $100,000 or we need $10,000. And so if you are putting on these kind of events, this is a place for you to come and see the other events and globalize these things across the campus, so that we can set these annual calendars for things we know we're going to do and assign the resources to them, so that then when people come, we say, hey, look, we've got a process to fund these things, and I expect that these moving forward will be annual things that we do in the year prior, so that we can have these things set out accordingly, so that we're not placing unnecessary stress on anyone who's running around either looking for resources or our classified professionals who provide support in processing the paperwork. So thank you to Marciano, and I would, Angel, like to have this on the next agenda to just dive into this a little deeper in terms of the why, and at least document it twice that this is the way we're proceeding moving forward. Now, I'm also reminded by Adon, I learned from all of the folks at our college, talks about the intersectionality. Very few of our students and us are just one thing, right? And so there has to be intentional efforts. We know that these events, when we have them and we say Black students or Latinx students, are open to the campus, right? Anyone who's attended these events, particularly when we have food, knows that everybody at the college is benefiting from these efforts. And so we want to continue our being intentional about how we schedule them and support them with the college's resources. So thank you, Marciano, and the team putting that together.
And just to wrap up, I don't know, to remove the open house, and I think what you're speaking of, music to my ears, we can prepare ahead a year in advance, because it's also the opportunity of partnership, like, the open, oh my God, the student project and research symposium. Now we partner with open house, so that has been something that we know every year is gonna happen on this day. So knowing with a lot of time in advance, it's an opportunity for different projects to partner together to really get a bigger audience. So I just wanted to say thank you to Clarissa and her team, and kudos to the people planning the symposium, because it has been really a beautiful experience. Last year, I think we had more than 800 students, and even though some come just for open house and some just for the research symposium, they are gonna meet each other at some level, and to make sure that people know that these are open for family members. So I always often remind everyone, don't just come yourself, bring your family. And we have student awards, so there is money for students that are presenting. And I encourage all of them, from open house to those participating, to faculty members, join us, bring your families, let's gather in community, and the more people, the more lively it becomes. And that's how we can make magic together.
Yes.
Can I share one last event?
Sure.
So April 23rd, our barbershop we'll have our grand opening for our barbershop.
goodness.
So we've done a couple of soft openings, events, just trying to iron out the kinks with students. I am excited to say, we've done, I think, about 25 haircuts in the last 2 weeks. For students, the barbers are getting used to the space and helping us kind of figure out the process where students sign up and things like that, but it has gone absolutely well. And there is a story in Ricky's email right now from a student who shares that they got a haircut, and we're writing this email through their tears because they have a job interview coming up. They're unhoused, and they said that after getting their haircut today, this was the first time they felt seen on our campus. So yeah, you have a beautiful email in your inbox.
Yeah, and let me ask that this go on a future agenda, because some of the things we do, we get very interesting feedback when we do them. You want to see our students in a space where they feel seen and appreciated. I was giving a tour from a donor. I give a lot of tours to potential donors. So I was giving a tour to San Diego Foundation yesterday, because they give us, frankly, 6 figures a year. And I walked the rep by the barber shop, and it was the first day, and I didn't know this. So I actually thought it was going to be empty. And I walked by, and there were 2 students getting their haircuts. But there were like 15 outside of the barber shop. Like, how do I get in here? What do I gotta do? And I went, Marciano, I don't want to steal his thunder, but we're not just giving out free haircuts. Students have to do something in order to get the haircuts, which is helping us with their retention. And so I don't want to steal the thunder. I think we need to come back and present that to the group. But folks, if you want to know if this is working, go down there and see the students who now can get a haircut, they can get food, and they can get an outfit. So they can leave with food in their belly on their way to get an interview with a brand new outfit that allows them to put our education into practice. This is another one of those things that we thought would work. We knew it would work, but to see it work is something that might bring you to tears to hear these students talk about, because if you don't know, it costs $50 to get a haircut. One of the barbers yesterday was a female Latina barber. I mean, so there's so many stories that could be told with this. And so kudos to Roxanne, the facilities team. There's so many people behind this to make this work, the basic needs team. But these students have to do something to get a haircut. So it's a reward, and it also is helping us with our SCIP funding. And I'll stop there because I want Marciano to be able to have the platform to tell the story. If you need to put a smile on if you need something to be excited about or something to be happy about, go down to the barbershop. What days is it?
Mondays and Tuesdays, 10 to 2 right now. It's our soft opening. We're getting the barbers onboarded and getting them, again, just used to being, for them to see who our students are and how the appointment process works. And then we'll do our grand opening 23rd.
Yeah, and we've got to figure something out, and I'm gonna tell this piece of the story. Well, I'm gonna let Marciano tell this piece, and this will be the last thing. We want to share what happened today, that we're probably gonna have to figure out how to help the extended students, the future students at City College.
We had someone who signed up, but they were bringing their kid to get a haircut. And of course, we could not help at that moment, but it reminded us just, again, that this is, like,
Community,
this is our family,
family.
right? And so this was someone who's like, I need my son to get their haircut. And this was a chance for them to do it. So, but we have some amazing barbers, we have some amazing stories, and I'm excited because the students, I've now talked to several students who have gotten their haircut, and they all have a really, like, there's some commonalities about like what it's done for them, but the excitement that when they're in there getting their haircut is like something I can't even describe. I just can't.
So that's a good place to end. Thank you all for what you do for our college. If I could be of any assistance, please reach out. For those who would like to put an agenda item on College Council, reach out to my office. If you have something you're proud about, let's celebrate it right here at College Council. Bring it to my office so that we can highlight the various areas. If you've written a book, if you've gotten an award, if there's something you've accomplished, or if there's something you're concerned about. We want to hear about that as well. Please bring it to College Council. I am going to be transitioning. Last thing, I know I've said that 2 or 3 times. Today is the joint board meeting between San Diego Unified and San Diego Community College District. I'm going to welcome San Diego Unified and our guests to the Seville Theater, and I'm going to do so with Angel Sanchez, who is a City College alum, started at San Diego High School, came to City College, I believe works for Clarissa, and was in the Mesa program, a biology major, who has since transferred to San Diego State, majoring in biology. What we're doing here, folks, is changing lives. Enjoy the rest of your day. Nice to see you all.